All right, y'all, let's talk about the CZ Shadow 2 Optics Ready. This bad boy right here. So I've been using this for all of 2021 season. I've only shot about 11 matches and had a few training sessions with it, unfortunately. But that all adds up to 3,600 rounds by my count, give or take a few hundred probably, but somewhere up there in that area. So I've got enough rounds through this thing. Shot enough matches with it that I have a pretty informed opinion on it. So all these guns are unloaded and cleared. We'll just double check that again. So here's my Shadow 2, all right? I was shooting the CZ-P10F in competition prior to this. So striker fired polymer framed gun. Love this gun. Made Grandmaster with this gun. I run this completely stock other than the addition of the optic on top. Also a optics ready model from CZ. And I brought out my P01, which was the sort of the predecessor to this, right? It's a duty gun made for law enforcement and military. These are, alloy, steel or aluminum alloy framed double single action guns with a hammer. The Shadow 2 came from the full-size version of this, the competition custom version called the P01 Shadow. They then made the Shadow 2 specifically designed for competition. And that's what we have here, and we have the optics ready version. So first things first, this gun is heavy, much heavier compared to my P10 that I was previously shooting. So getting used to the weight was my initial big adjustment. The double single action trigger, didn't have much issue adjusting to that at all. The weight was the biggest factor. So getting used to drawing a heavy gun, transitioning with a heavy gun. This thing right now, as it is with the optic and the lock grips that I added, which I'll talk about in a minute, comes in at like 53 ounces or something with an empty mag in it, which is almost the weight limit for carry optics division. So it's about as heavy as you can get it. So it's substantial is my point. What does that mean? It means that the gun soaks up more recoil, right? It's easier to shoot fast and stay on target. You don't have to put as much work in to keeping the gun on target if your technique is good, because the weight absorbs that recoil. Very minimal movement when the gun's firing, when the gun's cycling. It's pretty awesome. So I'll work in some video here of me shooting it, and you guys can get an idea of what that recoil is like. The weight is mostly a good thing. I mention it because it was an adjustment coming from polymer guns, and that was the hardest part for me, switching from a gun like this to the gun like this. It wasn't the trigger. Striker fire's nice. This trigger is very nice as well. So the double action, sure, you could send it to Cajun or CZ Customs and clean it up, but I don't have I don't feel a real need for that. The double action is clean, all right? I don't know how heavy it is. It's not super heavy at all. I find it to be pretty clean. And then the single action for this gun, there's the reset. Much shorter and lighter. Very light single action. So coming from the striker fired P10, right, which has a pretty clear wall, but it's pretty clean. The single action's heavier. So the single action on this was, ooh baby, super light compared to what I was used to. So right out of the box, factory trigger, heavy gun, inherently very accurate, which I'll talk about a little bit in a minute. I found this gun to be less work to get the performance that I wanted than my previous guns, right? That's the idea of it. It's heavier, it's accurized, it's got a real light, nice single action trigger. So I get the results that I wanted out of this gun with less work than I had to put in and apply for a polymer gun. All right, so right off the bat, very nice. So what did I do to this gun? I changed the grips, first of all. I tried out some Palm Swell lock grips, which were very nice and grippy. Look cool, very grippy. The Palm Swells were a little bit of an adjustment for me because I'm used to shooting, you know, Glocks and P10s. So I kind of like the thin grips. It came with these blue thin grips, which were fine, but I wanted a little bit more grippy. All right. So I ended up going with these lock grips that are G10, super grippy, but that have brass. They're also brass. So they add weight. So I took an already heavy gun and made it heavier, which at first I wasn't sure about, but you know, with some dry fire and practice, I got used to the weight and I really like it. So you'll see in the videos that when I shoot this gun, the muzzle doesn't rise very much. I'm able to stay on target and shoot very fast and accurately. So that's great. Speaking of accurately, sometimes I shoot B8 bullseye targets at 25 yards. And I will say that one of my range sessions, I took this gun out and I shot a B8 bullseye. It was my very first B8 of the range session. And I shot a 100. First 100 I've shot in, actually. I don't shoot a ton of B8s, but I'm usually in the high 90s with them. 99 is not too hard for me to pull off with my polymer guns. You know, 95 to 97, 98, probably where I live generally, you know, if I'm really paying attention and trying. But this gun, first B8 of the night, almost cold, didn't do much before that, shot a 100. All right, and I'll post that up here. So I put the B8s away and stopped shooting them after that because I thought that was a testament to the gun, its accuracy and ability to shoot consistently, right? So I was pretty impressed with that first hundo on a B8 with the Shadow 2. So this is an SRO, the one MOA dot. I like the little dots. So that's what I'm shooting there. I am running Henning base plates for my Shadow 2. And so this is a 17 round mag. This is a +5. It gives me 23 rounds. So for carry optics division, I'm shooting 23 round mags, 23 +1 in the gun, unless it's an unloaded start. So that's competitive for carry optics. It came with 17 round flush mags. All right, which are totally sufficient. Mags work great. No issues with any mags I had. In fact, this gun has not had a hiccup since I've had it. No real malfunctions that I can speak of or any issues whatsoever. It's been phenomenal. So these are +2 mags it also came with, so you get 19 round mags. If you want the +2s, they'll look kind of cool. Do want to point out that the Shadow 2 mags are the CZ75 mags. They're different than the CZ P10 mags, which are 19 round mags. These are, so the P10, P07, P09, they're different than the CZ75 mags, right? So the CZ75 mags for the Shadow 2, they're the same mags that work in the P01 and the SP01, right? Obviously, this is a compact, this is a full-size mag, but same mag body. So same mags for those. All right. I run a really cool 3D printed dust cover for my gun in competition, cover up the SRO. Just wanted to show that off. It's from Range Panda. I've been running a GX Products holster with an RTI mount. The GX Products holsters are great because for competition, you've got absolutely zero retention. The gun just flies right out of the holster. But it's got this great clip. It's called the vice clip. So it locks the gun in. So when you're walking around doing stuff, the gun's secure. You don't got to worry about it, or you can even run with it. All right. Then when you're up on the line, just put that down. Gun comes right out. So it's good. I'm using my C&G holsters mag pouches. All right, these are my mag pouches from C&G Arms. Big fan of these, they work great. Got that cut out so you can index your finger on the mag when you snatch it. And let's talk about the optics mounting system real quick. All right, so this is factory from CZ, optics ready. All right, it came pre-cut for an optic mount. It had a plate on there, so the plate had rear irons, so you could run irons. You take that plate off, you lose the rear irons, which I don't care about at all, don't need them, and you install one of their plates. So this came with a Trijicon RMR plate, which worked great for my SRO, for an RMR, or the Holosun 507, 508s, right, same footprint. So this worked great. I went to initially install this with some screws that I had for my SRO, and the screws were too long. So user error, I put too long screws through there, and when I started tightening it down, the plate bent. All right, so you see that slight curve to the plate? The plate's no longer flush and wouldn't sit flush. I bent the steel plate. So my mistake for that, right? So I contacted CZ and said, hey, I screwed up. You guys got any other plates that I can buy? And I secured a CZ P10 adapter plate, which fits in the optic mount for the Shadow 2 as well, and fits the SRO, RMR, Holosun footprint, no problemo. The only difference between the P10 plate and the Shadow 2 plate is that little cutout on the right, and that's simply just to match the contour of the Shadow 2's slide. So you can see the narrow flat on top matches the Shadow 2 contour, and this wider one matches the P10F. All that means is that on your Shadow 2, if you put a P10 plate on there, the plate's gonna overhang over the extractor a little bit, okay? So when I first saw that, I was like, my OCD, that needs to be flush. However, it's caused no issues whatsoever, not a single issue with ejection or the functioning of the gun. And I completely forgot about it, and you can just ignore it. It doesn't matter at all. So just something to be aware of. The P10 plates may be easier to get than the Shadow 2 plates if you need one, but you can run them and it's no issue at all. So installation was a breeze, other than my own mistake using too long screws. No issues with the mount coming loose. I used witness marks on my optic screws. Those haven't walked off. So installed this initially on the Shadow 2. It's been a champ ever since. No issues with function, ejection, no issues whatsoever, man. This gun has been totally stellar. It's getting up into the round count point where I might want to start looking at replacing springs, small parts internally, right? Getting up to that higher round count where you want to look at that, but I haven't had to yet, and my season's kind of over, so we'll see if I run it until they break or if I proactively replace anything. The gun also came with a CZ custom plate for a Vortex or a Burris, which I never used. I don't have any of those optics. The CZ custom plate doesn't have the same fit. It doesn't look like the optic will be as closed in by metal on this plate. So just something to be aware of. CZ custom plates might be a little different than what you get from CZ USA, right? Different entities, or something you might get from like CH Precision, for instance. So just something to be aware of. The gun does have a manual safety. I used it once or twice for a multi-gun match, right? So you can start with the gun cocked, safety on, disengage the safety to fire. The safety on, the gun won't fire. Disengage the safety, fires, right? With multi-gun, the only issue is, right, when you go to put the gun in a barrel, you've got to engage that safety before you barrel it. And this safety on this gun, I'm pretty sure it's not really designed to be used that much. It's very low profile, really kind of hard to hit when you're in a hurry. So just something to be aware of depending on your shooting discipline and what you prefer. I'm pretty sure you can order aftermarket safeties that are bigger, right? That are much easier to hit. For USPSA, we don't use those, right? You load the gun, rack a round into it, and then you manually decock it. How do you manually decock it? Rest your thumb on the hammer. Depress the trigger all the way. Slowly just let your thumb go forward. Let that hammer sit forward. Take your finger off the trigger, holster up, you're good to go, right? That's how you start for pistol games. So, you know, obviously that hammer's now resting on the fire pin, so don't drop it on the hammer. That'd be bad. There is kind of a half cock here, but for USPSA, you've got to go to full decock. So just something to be aware of. Super aggressive grips, really like the grips. Super easy to hit that mag release button. Real easy to reload. The metal magwell just seems to be easier to hit those reloads and nail them than it was with my P10F. So definitely found it easier to nail those reloads under stress, under time pressure with the Shadow 2 than I did with the P10. So that's really nice. I attribute that mostly to the metal frame, metal mags, metal frame. Real nice there. And yeah, so the last match of the season, I just shot Virginia State, was 6 in carry optics, which is I'm happy with, considering I haven't been able to participate in the sport quite as much. So check out the videos I'm posting of the matches. You can see me run the gun. You can see how flat it shoots. You'll see how accurate it is. It's just a damn sweet shooting gun. So, you know, heavy gun, that's really the only downside of it. It's freaking sweet. So good work, CZ. Glad you made the optics ready. Carry optics is clearly the division of the future. There were 129 carry optics shooters at Virginia State this weekend. The next biggest division was open, had 65 shooters. So carry optics is clearly taking over. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for making it through the video and listening to what I have to say. Josh from Green Ops and Spotter Up out.
Is that right?